Mesothelioma is a tumour of the lung, the pleura, or the abdomen, the peritoneum. If you've been diagnosed with mesothelioma, it will be a life-changing condition, sadly, and also a life-threatening one. Mesothelioma is almost always caused by exposure to asbestos. Aside from mesothelioma, you may have been diagnosed with diffuse pleural thickening, or asbestosis, or asbestos-related lung cancer. All of these conditions are serious, and some may be more serious than others. Typically, asbestos has been used in power stations to lag pipework around boilers or to insulate boilers. We've also used asbestos previously in construction, where it was also used to insulate roofs and so on. More recently, we're seeing claims come from school teachers who would pin classwork onto asbestos notice boards, and from doctors and nurses whose accommodation was built from the use of asbestos boarding. It's sad to say that sometimes the partners of engineers who've worked in industry have been diagnosed with asbestos-related conditions because of washing or laundering overalls that were worn where they've never worked with asbestos themselves. Asbestos has a long latency period, and often asbestos conditions are diagnosed many decades after first exposure. If you've worked with asbestos many years ago and more recently been diagnosed with an asbestos-related illness, you can claim compensation for that condition and also for any losses and expenses you've incurred as a result of that, both past and in the future. You should always seek the advice of a specialist solicitor because they'll be able to advise you about the process of claiming compensation and also your entitlement to any Department of Work and Pensions benefits. Don't worry if the companies you work for no longer exist. We're able to trace the employer's liability insurers of those companies who are now no longer trading, and it will be those employer's liability insurers who will pay compensation to you if your claim is successful. We'll work with you to prove that your exposure to asbestos was in negligent circumstances, so without any respiratory protection or without any warnings or training about the dangers of working with asbestos. We'll obtain medical evidence to help prove that your asbestos condition is related to that exposure, and we'll work to obtain the most amount of compensation that we can for you. We realise that no amount of compensation will bring back good health, but it may mean that you and your family are more financially secure. Compensation is payable for the condition that you have, but also for any losses and expenses that you've incurred or will incur in the future, including loss of earnings, up to retirement age, and beyond, including also loss of pension, and also the cost of care that you may need as your illness condition continues. We know that being diagnosed with an asbestos-related condition can be quite a worrying time. Here at Your Legal Friend, a compensation claim should be one less thing that you need to worry about. A claimant has 3 years from the date of diagnosis of an asbestos-related condition to bring a claim. However, the time limit is extended by 3 years if a claimant dies from the date of death so that the claim can continue for the benefit of the surviving spouse. Here at Your Legal Friend, we'll be able to advise you on a no-win, no-fee basis. We always explain our funding terms and conditions to you at the outset in any event, and our first consultation is always free of charge. We want to be sure that there are no surprises in terms of funding and that you fully understand how we'll be able to deal with your claim.